She hammered on my front door like she wanted to break it down. I wasn't even inside. I had just pulled into my driveway after a long night shift, still half asleep, when Karen came marching toward me with a bright red violation slip waving in her hand. Her voice was already at full volume. "You're being fined for noise. Your stupid party kept the whole block awake." I blinked at her, confused. Party? I wasn't even home. But she cut me off, stepping so close I could smell the fake vanilla perfume she drowned herself in. "Don't lie to me." I recorded everything. "You think you can break HOA rules and get away with it?" She pointed to my door like she owned the place. "I already called the police. They're coming to deal with you." Something inside me tightened, not in fear, in disbelief. I worked overnight shifts all week. My house had been empty for hours. And yet this woman was acting like she caught me red-handed. Then she said the line that instantly turned the whole situation upside down. "Since you refuse to follow my rules, I'll make sure they remove you from this neighborhood." My rules, not HOA rules. Her rules. That's when I knew this wasn't about noise. It was about control. I should have told her I wasn't just some tired guy coming home from work. I should have told her I had something she never expected. But I stayed quiet. Because the real twist was about to walk onto my driveway with flashing lights behind him. And when he spoke, Karen's face drained of all color. "Ma'am, he wasn't even in the state last night." The patrol car hadn't even stopped fully before. Karen ran toward it like she'd been waiting for her moment to shine. She pointed at me with both hands, shouting, "Officer! That's him! He blasted music all night. Arrest him or whatever you need to do. He's making this neighborhood unsafe." The officer stepped out slowly, calm, almost bored. But when he turned to me, the corner of his mouth lifted, he recognized me. Not as a neighbor, not as some ordinary homeowner, but from a different life. "Evening," he said quietly, then looked at Karen. "What noise exactly?" Karen pushed her phone in his face. "I have proof, look." This was at 2:13 a.m., his house, lights on, music shaking my windows. He watched the clip for 5 seconds and stopped it. "Ma'am, this house is pitch black." "And that sound? That's not music. That's a generator." Karen laughed like he was stupid. "So, same thing." "He was home!" The officer turned to me again. "You were on federal escort duty last night, right?" Karen's jaw twitched. "Federal what?" I nodded. "Didn't get back until 6 a.m. Just pulled in." The officer sighed, then looked at Karen with that expression cops use when they're done playing nice. "Ma'am, he wasn't even in the state. His car was logged on highway cams all night. And," he tilted his head, "why do you have footage recorded from his backyard?" Karen froze. Her hands stiffened. Her lips pressed tight. She hadn't thought anyone would catch that detail. I stepped forward, voice low. "Karen, how did you film inside my fence?" For the first time since she'd met me, she didn't have a single word. Then the officer added louder, "Ma'am, unauthorized surveillance of a private residence is a serious issue." Karen finally stuttered. But I'm HOA! I'm allowed!" I narrowed my eyes. I had been waiting for this part. "Karen, this neighborhood doesn't even have an HOA." The wind went quiet. Her face? Dead white. Karen stumbled back like someone had kicked the ground out from under her. What do you mean we don't have an HOA?" Her voice cracked. And for the first time, it didn't sound powerful. It sounded scared. The officer folded his arms. "Ma'am, this entire street is outside HOA jurisdiction. County records show it clearly. So whatever you've been handing out, fines, notices, rule sheets, none of it is legal." Her eyes darted between us, panic crawling across her face. No, that's not true. I have authority here. I run this neighborhood. Everyone listens to me." I stepped closer, keeping my voice calm. "Karen, you created your own HOA just to control people?" She snapped. "Someone had to. You people don't follow order. You park wrong. You mow wrong. This street was falling apart until I took charge." The officer shook his head slowly. "That's not taking charge. That's impersonating a governing authority." Karen's breathing got fast. She clutched her fake violation slip like it was a shield. "You're lying. You're both lying. I have proof. I have records. I have files." I raised an eyebrow. "Files on what?" Her mouth opened, then closed. Her body went still. She realized she'd revealed too much. Karen, the officer said, are you keeping personal information on the neighbors? Their schedules? Their movements? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence said everything. That's when the officer's radio crackled. A second unit was arriving, fast. Karen flinched. Why's another car coming? The officer gave her a long, heavy look. Because last night someone filed a noise complaint from your phone, while the homeowner wasn't here. She swallowed, hard. And, he continued, dispatch flagged your number. You filed 37 false reports this year. Karen took one step backward, then another, like she was deciding whether to run. I spoke softly, almost whispering, Karen, what were you doing behind my house at 2 a.m.? She didn't answer. She couldn't. Because the truth was about to drag her out into the open. Karen's eyes kept jumping between the two police cars now blocking the street. Her hands shook so badly the fake violation slipped from her fingers and fluttered onto the pavement. She didn't even try to pick it up. The second officer stepped out, older, colder, the kind who didn't waste time. The second officer stepped out, older, colder, the kind who didn't waste time. He glanced at me, then at Karen, then at the first officer. This the one? Karen's voice cracked. What do you mean, the one? I didn't do anything! The older officer didn't even look at her. We pulled the security feed from the utility poles. Motion-triggered cameras. Caught someone on the homeowner's property at 2:07 a.m. He paused, locking eyes with me. Someone in a red jacket. Karen's red jacket practically glowed under the morning sun. She clutched it like she could hide inside it. This is a common color. Lots of people wear red. The first officer raised a brow. Ma'am, the footage shows your car parked behind his fence. Everything inside her collapsed. Her shoulders dropped. Her legs wobbled. For a moment, she looked like she might faint. But then, in one desperate burst, she tried to flip the blame. You don't get it, she screamed. He's dangerous. He brings trouble here. I was checking on the neighborhood's safety. He hosts criminals, I know it. I stared at her. Calm, silent, letting her dig her own grave. The older officer exhaled sharply. Ma'am, he's a federal transport operator. He escorts high-value detainees across state lines. He's vetted by Homeland Security. Karen's mouth fell open. Her fake authority had just slammed into real authority. She whispered, No, that can't be true. I finally spoke. Karen, the only criminal activity happening here is what you've been doing. She stumbled back until her spine hit her porch railing. Her face twisted in denial. I was protecting this neighborhood. You people should thank me. The older officer stepped closer. Protecting? You forged letters, stalked residents, filed false reports, and trespassed. That's not protection. That's obsession. Karen's breathing turned sharp, almost gasping. For the first time, she understood where this was heading. But she didn't know the biggest twist yet. The one even the officers didn't see coming. I looked straight at her and said quietly, Karen, do you want to tell them why you were really behind my house? She froze again. A different kind of fear this time. Like she knew something I knew. And she prayed I wouldn't say it. Karen's lips trembled. Like she was trying to form a sentence, but her brain had already given up. Both officers turned to me, waiting. Sensing this wasn't just a petty neighbor feud anymore. There was something deeper. Something she desperately didn't want, said out loud. I took a slow breath. Karen wasn't checking noise. She wasn't checking safety. She wasn't even looking for rule violations. Karen shook her head fast, whispering, Stop! Please stop. The older officer narrowed his eyes. Then what was she doing behind your house at 2 a.m? I stepped closer, lowering my voice but keeping it sharp enough to cut through her denial. Because she thought no one would ever catch her opening my back shed. The color drained from her face so fast it was like her blood hit the brakes. She almost whispered, You can't prove that. The officer immediately looked at her. Opening his shed? For what? Karen's breathing broke into tiny choking sounds. She pressed her hands to her chest like she could hold the truth inside. I mean, but I didn't let her finish. Not after months of her acting like she owned the world. She was trying to get into my locked storage, I said calmly. She thought there was something illegal inside. Something she wanted to catch me with. The younger officer frowned. Why would she think that? Karen squeezed her eyes shut. But it was too late. I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. A clip popped up automatically, night vision footage from inside the shed. Karen's voice from the recording echoed through the quiet street. He has to be hiding something. Nobody is this clean. I'll find it. Her own words, her own voice, her own obsession. The officers stared at her like they were seeing her for the first time. The older one spoke slowly. Ma'am, you broke into his property. No, Karen exploded, losing all control. I had to. He knew something. He wasn't normal. He wasn't like us. I tilted my head slightly. Not normal. Because I work out of state? Or because I'm never home during the night? She pointed at me with a shaking hand. No! Because you never told anyone what you keep in that shed. That's when the young officer's curiosity cracked. Okay, I have to ask, what is in the shed? I looked him dead in the eyes, and in one low, even tone, said the words that made both officers straighten up and made Karen crumble completely. It's government equipment, and it's tracked. Karen pressed her hands against her mouth. The officers exchanged a sharp, alarmed look. Because in that moment, everyone understood the gravity. The moment those words left my mouth, everything shifted. The officers straightened like someone had flipped a switch inside them. Karen, on the other hand, collapsed against her porch rail, whispering, No, I didn't know. I didn't know. But that excuse didn't matter anymore. Not after everything she'd done. Not after months of stalking, fake fines, and controlling the neighborhood like her own little kingdom. The older officer stepped forward, voice firm and final. Ma'am, you are being detained for trespassing on restricted property, filing false reports, and unlawful surveillance. Karen's legs buckled as he guided her hands behind her back. She didn't scream this time. No attitude. No commands. No fake authority. Just quiet, shaking breaths, and the sudden weight of reality. Pressing down on her, she looked at me one last time, desperate. I was only trying to keep this neighborhood safe. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Karen, safety doesn't come from control. It comes from respect. They walked her toward the patrol car. The same street she once ruled now watched her lose everything she thought she had. Neighbors peeked from their windows, some shocked, some relieved, some finally understanding what I'd been dealing with. The younger officer stayed beside me, calmer now. We'll file the full report. Federal liaison will reach out about the breach. You did the right thing saving that footage. I nodded. I just wanted peace. She wouldn't let anyone have it. As the patrol car door closed and the engine rolled away, a quiet settled over the street. Real quiet. Not the forced silence Karen tried to create. For the first time in months, my home actually felt like home. Not a battlefield. Not a surveillance target. Just peaceful. Later, standing on my porch with the morning sun climbing over the rooftops, I whispered the line that stayed with me long after she was gone. I didn't fight for my land, my job, and my freedom, just to be bullied on my own doorstep. And that was the end of Karen's reign. Not with noise, not with a fight, but with the truth she tried so hard to twist. Justice landed quietly, but it landed hard.